I followed all the game dev advice. Here's what happened. If you're a video game developer, then you've most likely heard other YouTuber game devs give you the same exact advice over and over. Now, here's the thing. I am primarily a game designer, and I'm a decent 3D artist, but I suck at programming. I'm not a programmer, but it's okay because I use Unreal Engine, because normal game engines have code that looks like this. But in Unreal Engine, you have blueprints, which look like this. I love blueprints. I would let blueprints sit on my face and tell me I'm a dirty little pig boy. Bruh. So, after failing to finish multiple games that I wanted to make, like this one, or this one, or this one, I decided to finally just hunker down and listen to all the advice that I keep hearing over and over again from all these game developers on YouTube, and I wanted to see if they're actually onto something or if they're dirty little liars.
Tiny Games is the name of the class that I just finished my recent semester of university.
Is focus on making smaller games so you can get used to finishing games.
Don't actually make full games, make demos.
You should be making smaller games.
So I said, okay, cool. I'm gonna make a small game. I'm a designer. I can do that. I will just focus on my strengths. So I can't do like crazy mechanics because I'm not that good at programming, but I can keep it simple. And since I'm a solo dev, I'll keep the graphics simple and stick to the PS1 art style because I know I can handle that.
These are prototypes. Scrappy sample versions of games.
In the past 10 months, I have made over 15 prototypes.
In contrast, when Kojima designed the levels for Metal Gear Solid, he prototyped them with Legos.
I've been making games for several years now, but I don't know if I've ever made a prototype.
While I've built quite a few different games, I've prototyped way more than I've ever built.
At the start, you should have your gameplay prototype.
So I needed a game idea first, and what I eventually came up with was something similar to like LSD Simulator or Yume Nikki, where you're just going through multiple rooms, multiple worlds, you know, and it's kind of random and you're like, what's going on? Eventually, I added the concept of going through a red or blue door as a choice, and that was basically my game. I made a prototype thanks to my buddy Moonglint, who made Echoes of the Living. He helped me code a system that randomizes my levels, so once I made a level, I just added to the list, and that was it. The first level I made was this snail-themed level, which was actually inspired by true events. Long story, we don't have time for that. But the prototype worked? Was successful? I don't know. It functioned as a game. It's good enough for me.
You should get your Steam page up ASAP.
What you gotta do is have that Steam page up nice and early.
As far as you can basically in advance, the moment you have a game that looks somewhat decent, you would put up a store page.
Okay, I don't have a game yet, but sure, I'll create a Steam page. Goodbye, $100. I'll miss you.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine.
So I made a Steam page and uploaded some screenshots from the few levels that I had made so far while prototyping. I also posted on my main YouTube channel about it and told everyone I was working on the game, made a few Reddit posts, and that was pretty much it. So there's one big thing that I need to mention that's kind of a unique situation for me, and this is not me bragging, I'm just stating a fact. I am in the unique situation where normally game developers tell you to reach out to content creators and, you know, YouTubers and all that stuff. But the thing is, I am a YouTuber with a relatively large following. So my main channel has over 200,000 subscribers. It's Ink Ribbon, the third largest Resident Evil channel on YouTube. I'm very proud of that. But I primarily talk about survival horror games, and that's kind of the catch here, because if my audience primarily plays survival horror games, I don't know if they're even going to like this game that I'm making, because it's horror flavored, kind of, but it's not really a survival horror game. It's not even really a horror game in my opinion. It's, I don't know. So the question is, will they wishlist it to support me? Will they buy it to support me? Will they actually like it, or will they not care? I don't know. We're going to find out together. But I just wanted to state that because it's a weird situation, so I'm going to let you know how that goes.
Audio is directly connected to visuals. The goal with audio is to make it feel like it looks.
The most important thing for sound is communicating feedback to the player and also creating emotion inside the game experience.
Let's talk sound design.
Yes, this one I know, especially for horror, because sound, if you're making a horror game especially, spend time on the sound. It is so important. I used to work in the film and entertainment industry, and let me tell you, like, people neglect how important sound is. So I was on this. Every single level I focused on the sound effects and making people, jump, and the music and the atmosphere, and even just like empty room tone can completely change a mood. It's really weird. Okay, what's next?
And getting feedback from other people can be a really great tool to help you fill in those gaps.
The playtest is one of the most important parts of game design.
Getting feedback during development is also challenging.
Playtesting is at the center of ensuring you're moving in the right direction.
Do your first playtesting as fast as possible.
So in this video, we will dive deeper into the playtest.
So I did have a few friends try out my game, and the way that I did that was either in person, they would come over and play it, or on Discord, they would share their screen and I would watch them play. And during this time, you just kind of want to take notes of things that you notice, because you're going to notice things that they don't even know they're doing, but you're like, oh, like, you wanted them to go left and then everybody goes right. It's like, okay, I need to do something to encourage the players to go left. Little things like that. But just like your dad watching your mom with her new boyfriend, all you can do is watch. You can't interact with them. You can't tell them where to go. You can't give them hints, because if a person is playing your game, they're not going to have you sitting there telling them what to do. And it's so frustrating to watch someone play your game wrong, but that's good, because then you see what they're doing wrong and you're like, okay, how do I stop the player from doing that? So when you do this, you're going to notice a lot of game design problems that you weren't aware of immediately. It's a really, really helpful thing. Even if you get like 2 or 3 people to play it, anybody, like, you will notice stuff immediately. Players will go the wrong way, or do things in the wrong order, or just straight up break your game somehow. But this is standard. Take notes, iterate, and improve, and test again. One thing I did notice was that players were bored just walking, which is understandable. So I started adding both gimmicks and things to interact with, but I specifically planned interactables that could be reused across multiple levels. So things like switches, buttons, levers, things like that. Push button, do thing. Then there's the added gimmicks to some levels that serve as the flavor, the ooh and ah. This was actually really fun for me, because I got to test out a lot of game ideas that I had over the years, and sort of create little mini prototypes within this game just to kind of see how they worked. Some were bad ideas, like this room where the whole concept is that you have really bad eyesight and stumble around blind like Velma and Scooby-Doo. It was good for a short level like this, but a whole game of that would have been terrible. But then I had some great ones, like this puzzle room that actually requires you to learn some Spanish in order to solve a puzzle, which I am very proud of. And if a player already speaks Spanish, well, then they'll just have a very easy puzzle, I guess.
The number one lesson is, your game idea probably sucks.
My first game sucked. But that ugly is the reason I can now build games quickly, cleanly, and actually finish them.
So your first game, it's gonna suck.
But then people tell you your game sucks. And I want to talk about this.
I was pretty proud to have a fully completed game. But here's the thing. It wasn't very good.
Yep, I'm essentially making a walking simulator on steroids, so I'm not expecting to be the next hit game. I mean, as long as it performs better than Concord, I'll be happy. All I want to do is finish a damn game. That's it. That's the goal. Okay, you guys get the idea, right? I did all the things. I followed all the advice. And now I have a game. And my game is cute, and it's tiny, and it's beautiful, and I love it. But like a single father who knocked up a Waffle House waitress and now has a surprise baby to take care of, this game has completely physically and mentally drained me, and I am exhausted. Even though it was only 6 months of development, it was every single day for 6 months. Programming, audio design, level design, bug fixes, and most time consuming of all, making a metric shit ton of 3D models. Oh my god. I have enough 3D models now to make like 10 games. But this is because there was one thing that I did that I made a big mistake on. The biggest game development no-no for a solo dev especially.
So in this video, I wanted to talk with you about the topic of feature creep, also known as scope creep.
Scope creep is when you want to make a game and you get all these big ideas that end up being a little too ambitious and unreasonable.
Scope creep, the idea of uncontrolled growth within your project.
Your scope has increased so much by now that you're basically making a different game.
Now, my genius idea was to take a whole bunch of random rooms to walk through, like I said, like LSD Simulator or whatever, and I saw a lot of indie games that were similar to this, especially with the PS1 style and all that. But there was two things that I did wrong mainly. First was trying to create a big story. Second of all was the stupid, idiotic decision to call the game 100 Doors. It sounded good at the time, but do you know how hard it is to come up with 100 ideas for unique and interesting rooms? At the beginning, it was fine, but when I started realizing each room was taking me almost a month to make, I was like, oh hell no, I am not spending 2 years making a walking simulator. Nope. So I ended up scrapping most of the story. I had a script, I had a whole, like, there was a beginning and an end, and like, it was too much. And I realized with all the animating and getting voice acting and all that stuff, it was going to add like another, at least minimum 3 months, if not another 6 months to development. And I was like, you know what? I can't. So I got rid of the story completely. If I could go back in time and call the game 50 Doors, I probably would have done that. But I already made the Steam page, I already made the title, and I already gave my money. So, and on top of that, I already told my viewers that it was called 100 Doors. So it was just like, okay, I'm locked in. I did this to myself. For those 6 months, I pretty much worked non-stop on the game and was making videos for my main channel as well, since that was kind of my main day job. And I decided to give myself a deadline, which is another common piece of advice that you hear, and that was to finish my game by mid-January. After obsessively working on the final levels, I actually ended up finishing the game in like mid-December, which I was very, very proud of and happy because it gave me so much time to fix bugs and playtest and polish my knob.
What?
Oh, I mean, polish my game, and that's what ended up happening. I can't stress this enough. You think you finished your game, you'll think you found all the bugs, and you will find more. Want to know what Time Crunch did to me? If you collect all 100 skulls in the game, which ended up becoming the main gameplay objective, by the way, then you get the true ending. But no matter what I did, it wasn't triggering. So I went to check the code and realized that I forgot to actually send the player to the ending. You know, only the most important part of this entire game is rewarding the player with a satisfying ending to all of their hard work. And the ending was there. I literally just forgot to plug it in. So I did it. I am happy to say that my game is out on Steam, and I wrote my game will release on January 26th, but that was actually 2 days ago. So as of right now, me recording this video, it's January 28th, and my game has been out for 2 days. I will do another video talking about how I performed and all the aftermath of releasing a game, because that's its own thing, so stay tuned for that. But right now, I just really quickly want to tell you the unexpected benefits of doing this and why I recommend you doing it, because it was actually great. I drastically improved my programming skills. There's so much that I could do now that I couldn't do before making this game, which is probably the biggest benefit of this. Like, highly recommend. I made a ton of assets that now I can just use in future games. I can also sell them if I want to. And I learned how to release a game on Steam, which is a skill in itself, because there's so much, like, making the artwork and filling out all the forms and all the settings, and oh my god, it's so much. And most importantly, I finished a game. I officially finished and released a game on Steam. It's still so crazy. I have so many emotions, but I finished a game. And that last one is the most important part of this whole experience, because that was the point of all of this. I just wanted to release a damn game, and I did. Once my game has been out for a while, I'll let you know how it performed. I'll show you the numbers, and here's how my game did on Steam, because that's kind of a rite of passage for indie developers, I think, and I'm really excited to do that. But for now, I am going to go take an edible, and I'm going to go play some video games because I am exhausted. Thank you, and good night.